views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome to Open World, the show that brings art, culture, and music to you. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, the Bronx's very own Queen of Freestyle, Judy Torres. She has played sold-out shows, shared the stage with some amazing performers, and created a career as a radio personality on one of New York's top stations. It was the hardships throughout her life that brought Judy a light she'd not seen before, and a voice she'd not heard before, her own. Here to tell us much more, the Bronx's own Judy Torres. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. That sounded great.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's start with the basics. What was it like to grow up in the Bronx?
Growing up in the Bronx was loud. It was very loud. I remember when I first moved to 182nd and Crotona Parkway, I just remember being overwhelmed with the sounds, you know, especially people yelling out the fire escape, saying, "¿Qué número salió?" and people playing hopscotch and double dutch and roller skates. And I just remember being so busy, but the thing I remember the most about it was all the different kinds of music that I had never, ever been exposed to. So it was kind of like a shock, and at the same time, it was extremely intriguing.
And now that you mentioned music, how did that lead up to the career path that you found? Like, why choose music out of all the different, paths you could have taken in life?
Why not?
Definitely.
Well, the truth is, I credit my mom for exposing me to lots of music, specifically musicals. My mom loved to listen to everything from the Beatles to country to gospel to pop, and but she always put musicals on, and there was something to me that was magical about the musicals. As soon as I heard or saw anything on TV, it just captivated me, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. And then finally I saw someone performing. I think they were singing a Whitney Houston cover. I don't remember what it was. I just remember watching the audience, like she had them completely hypnotized. They couldn't move. They were just in awe. And then when she finished singing, it was like if something just bolted them up, and everyone stood up at the same time. And they, and I just thought, wow, that is so powerful that one person can do that for all those people. And I also realized, that whenever I sang, I felt better. And I just thought, what a great thing to do, to make people feel better, and you feel better at the same time. It doesn't get better than that.
Definitely. And what were some of those musicals that inspired you? What was it that drew you to them? Was it the singing, or just how, the lyrics made you feel? Because sometimes the music is something, but the lyrics also talk to us.
Well, I think I listened to, back then, I watched Wizard of Oz a gazillion times.
It's a good one to start with.
I love Judy Garland so much, and I was really caught up in West Side Story. I felt like the first thing I noticed about watching the musicals is I forgot about everything. You could be having the worst day in your life, and you put it on, and it just, in 1 second, it wiped you away. West Side Story was just great because it was I say it in the show, it was the first time I saw Puerto Ricans portrayed in anything.
Yes.
And yeah, we were in a gang, but that's okay. But it was just pretty powerful to see that going on. And I was just drawn in by the drama, the love, everything. And
how did you begin your training in music?
Well, when I was, I realized like between 7 and 10 years old that I wanted to be a singer. But I used to go to my mom and I used to beg her, please help me. I want to get voice lessons, but my mom couldn't afford it, So she would say, I'm sorry, I just don't have the money. And I found a voice teacher on Grand Concourse. And I told my mom, I said, Mom, she's only $50 an hour, but the woman said, for you, I'll just do $10. And my mom was like, well, that's $10 I don't have.
Wow.
So I had to improvise, So what I did was I would put the records on of my favorite singers. And I would say, okay, Barbara Streisand's going to teach me vocal range, and Donna Summer and France Jolie are going to teach me how to hold long notes and things like that. So I would make believe I was having a voice lesson with them, and I would put the music on and just basically sing along.
So it was basically all self-taught then?
Pretty much.
For
Some
the
of
most
it's
part,
self-taught wrong, some of it's self-taught right.
Yeah. Wow. So fast forward a little bit more, after all that training, after all that preparation, the freestyle movement came about. Now, for people that don't know what freestyle is, how would you explain it to them? And you being the queen of freestyle, of course.
Freestyle music is, to me, it was a movement. It was a phenomenon that happened culturally, urbanly, and especially in the Bronx. It was born here, you know. Freestyle music was a form of dance music that was also incorporating a lot of Latin rhythms. And at first, we really didn't know what to call it. At first, I just thought it was music. And then they started giving it labels, and sometimes labels can be dangerous. They called it Latin hip hop, then Latin freestyle, and finally just freestyle.
It makes it a little bit more limiting if you start to put labels.
But I mean, when I first fell into it, I say fell into it because it wasn't done intentionally, but you know, it didn't have a name. So to me, it was just music that sounded good, and I wanted to be part of it.
How exactly did you fall into it?
I was singing in all these different nightclubs in the Bronx, and I finally met George Vasconez, may he rest in peace. He was my first manager, and he hooked me up with Mickey Garcia, who was looking for a singer. I auditioned for him, and he gave me a song, and didn't really like it. And then I was with some other singers, and the day before we were all going to record, we switched songs, and that's how I was given my first single, No Reason to Cry. And I recorded it, and bam, somehow I was in. It took a while. It took the whole process was about a year and a half, but it was really great, yeah.
And how did it feel to be a part of that movement, you know, to be part of something that was just getting introduced to like the masses?
It was a blessing, because like I said, it was a phenomenon. If you think about, I don't know if it's fair to compare, but if you think about when the Beatles first came and there was this excitement, it wasn't quite like that, but it was getting there. Just people running after our limos. We would do the Puerto Rican Day Parade, and people would follow the float to the point that the float couldn't move. And it was just electric. The people just loved the music, and they noticed that the majority of the artists were Latino. And it was like a new sense of pride for everybody.
I assume that back in the day, representation, definitely not how it was today. So how did that feel to represent something within your community? Because your parents are, your dad is Cuban, your mom's Puerto Rican, and you know, you carry that heritage with you. So what did that mean to you to be part of this movement and being part of the parades and stuff?
It was great. I mean, it's just the whole thing has been a blessing, something that I'll never take for granted. But I can just say that the time in general was just magical, and I don't think I've ever seen anything like it since, to be honest with you.
Definitely. All right, we're going to continue the conversation, but for now, we are going to take a quick break, but we will be right back after these messages.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at BronxNet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
Welcome back. We're talking to Judy Torres, Queen of Freestyle. So we were talking a little bit about your career in freestyle and how everything was phenomenal. But with every big opportunities in life, there's always some hardships that, carry us there to the good times. And you can't have good times without bad times, definitely. So when, people look you up and they look up your biography, there's a lot of talks about how you were struggling with bullying, weight issues, and so on. And you often refer to this period of your life as the dark cloud. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes, I call it the dark cloud because it's like, it's just like your everyday weather. You have your good days, and then all of a sudden, this big cloud comes over, and darkness comes, and the light is gone, and you're like, oh, this is bad. But basically, when I was feeling that way, I noticed that I would cry pretty much incessantly, sometimes for hours. Sometimes I had a reason, and sometimes I didn't. And that's why I call it dark cloud, because I didn't really have an explanation for it. I didn't understand what was going on. Looking now in retrospect, I see, hindsight is 20/20, and I realized it was a lot of things. It was a combination and a culmination of the fact that my mother and father had split up when I was very young, the fact that I was always wondering where was my father, because he kind of wasn't really present in my life, and I really missed him, and I really needed that. And of course, there was a lot of bullying. I was overweight, so I was always weight conscious, super conscious of my weight, and things just built and built and built and built. And then finally I had a boyfriend who was really horrific to me, and another boyfriend who ended up stalking me, and it turned into a really horrible thing. So I have control over that dark cloud now. When I see it coming,
No, not
but
today.
I have a lot of resources now that I can turn to, so that I don't give it any power, because that's what was happening. I was giving it a lot of power, and I let it control me as opposed to me controlling it.
Definitely. Sometimes with all the, the pressures of life and everything, it's really hard to control it. So it's amazing that you managed to do that. Not that many people can say that, and that's a lot. But aside from that, you were also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2005. How does that affected your career and your personal life?
When I was first diagnosed, I was really angry. And when I was first diagnosed, I say it in the show, the dark cloud came back. It really wanted an invitation really bad to my pity party. And, I was really angry because I felt that I always thanked God for all my senses. I used to, in my prayers every night, I always said, thank you, I can see that, I can hear that, I can taste it, I can smell. And for me to be so grateful for that, and then my sight was taken away, that's how I found out I had multiple sclerosis. So I was pretty angry. And then from there, it was terrifying that the idea was like, what if I can't see? How am I going to perform? How am I going to be the person everyone's used to seeing me as? Thankfully, I got a lot of the sight back, not all of it. But it was an ex-boyfriend at the time who asked me, can you still sing? And I said, yeah. He's like, okay, so stop feeling sorry for yourself. If you can't sing, then I could see you being depressed, but you can still sing. And that kind of was the thing that woke me up, that said, okay, I have to stop feeling sorry for myself.
Definitely. And that was it, like that moment of clarity.
Yeah, that moment, and I started realizing, I started looking at other people and their illness, and I started noticing how people pay attention to it. And so I started thinking, okay, maybe if I don't pay attention to the illness won't pay attention to me. And so I came up with a whole set of rules. I came up with a whole set of rules about how I was going to handle it. And, my first thing is, don't call it your disease. It's not your disease. You didn't ask for it. You didn't buy it. You didn't pay for it.
Exactly.
It's not yours. It happens to be part of something that's in your life right now, but it doesn't have to be that important.
Definitely.
So that helped me. Once I shifted how I perceived the whole situation, it changed. And I just saw MS as a sign that was telling me that things in life were not going right, and I had to make some changes.
Definitely. If there was a moment in your life now that you're older,
older,
more mature, rather.
I'm just kidding.
What do you think you would say to your past self if you go back in time to prepare your younger self for the things that were coming in the future?
That's an interesting question, because I actually do that in the one-woman show. I tell her, the things that happen to you are not your fault. That you're fine just the way you are. And that the people who hurt you were only projecting stuff that happened to them because someone else hurt them. And that you have to forgive them so you don't become them. And I let her know, you know what? There's going to be a time it's going to get so rough you're going to want to give up. You really are. but in the end, everything's going to be okay. And the love that you didn't get, that you were looking for, you know, you got in your fans. That's how I feel.
And how have your fans helped you throughout this whole process? Tell me a little bit more about that.
If it weren't for my fans, I probably would have many more times that I fell apart. You know, your fans are a reminder to me. They're God's reminder that you're okay, that you're loved, that you're worthy, that you're special. So a lot of times, my fans don't know it, but there were times I was so down. And I would go on Facebook and someone would say something pretty powerful or really assuring to me, and I would say, my God, what am I thinking? I have to snap out of this, you know?
Yeah.
So they've really helped me way more than they could imagine.
Yeah. And now that you mentioned your show, tell me how it came into concession. The show is called No Reason to Cry. And you mentioned that that was your first single ever
Right.
as an artist. So is that why you chose the name, or is there more to it than that?
Well, No Reason to Cry was my first single. When I for years, I wanted to write a one-woman show. I was just really afraid to. And then finally, it just kind of hit me that it made sense. That after everything that I've been through, I feel a lot more empowered now. I feel braver now. I just have this quiet confidence that I know that everything's going to be okay. So I just felt that it was perfect to call the show No Reason to Cry.
Definitely. And I want to discuss more of this and how things have changed, because the show has been on for a few weeks, a few months and everything. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break, but we will be right back. Welcome back. We're talking to Judy Torres, Queen of Freestyle and star of her own one-woman show, No Reason to Cry. So we talked a little bit about what the show is about, but give me a little bit more detail. What exactly inspired you to do a one-woman show?
Fear. Fear inspired me really fast.
Oh, that's always a good fuel. Always.
I was 49 and I was about to turn 50. And when I was 49, I had, I guess, a little mild midlife crisis where I was like, oh my God, I'm going to turn 50. What have I done? And I think there's a part in my spirit that never feels like what I'm doing is enough. I always feel like I have to do more. I have to do something else. What else can I do? So I'm always searching. But I just felt like I'm going to turn 50. I want to do something phenomenal. I want to do something different, you know. And I was just really afraid. So I hired a life coach who really helped me with that. And it took about a year. The whole process was a little bit over a year to happen. But I wanted to tell my story. Everybody has a story. And if we all took the time to listen to each other's stories, not only will we realize that we have more in common than we do the differences, but somewhere along the line you can tap into someone else's pain and you can help inspire them and bring them out of it. And so it was important to me. I really wanted to tell my story because I've been through a lot. And I just wanted people to see that on the other side, there is beauty and there is happiness and joy and rainbows and unicorns and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sometimes we connect to other people more than we know with our own stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what was the process of creating that one-man show? Because like it's one thing like, okay, I have my memories, I have my experiences, but how do I put it into like concrete, like into paper? How do I express it correctly?
That was my problem. That's why I was blocked, because I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't know where to start, you know? So together with the life coach, she just said, well, what do you want it to be about? Write a synopsis about it. So I did that. And then she said, you know, perhaps you write 12 to 15 highlights of your life, good and bad. So I did that. And then she showed me the synopsis. She goes, here's what your show is about. And then in the highlight, she said, and here are your chapters, here are your scenes. Now go write. So it took about, for me to write it, it took about 2.5 weeks. And there were about 6 rewrites since then. And then during rehearsals, we've rewritten and everything. But I'm really happy with what has resulted. I think it's pretty miraculous, actually.
That's amazing. And what was besides actually writing it and putting it together, what were some of the hardest parts about it? Was there anything that you thought that you shouldn't write about, but ended up writing about and discussing anyways?
Yeah,
because there's always certain things that are always so personal.
Absolutely.
And it's a show about you, so.
I mean, when you tell your life story, you're in control of what you want to tell and what you don't want to tell.
Yes.
And there were a lot of things I thought about, maybe I shouldn't tell. The biggest fear is, when I tell my story, will you still like me? When I tell my story, will you judge me? When I tell my story, will you not follow me on social media anymore? You know? But then I thought about it and I said, you know, I'm going to be honest, because it's my life and I can't change it. What happened, happened, and that's it, you know? So I would say the hardest parts of the show and writing the show were reliving some of the traumas as a child.
Yeah.
For example, my first boyfriend raped me the very first time. I had never had sex before, for example, you know? So just writing that was hard. Telling the story is hard. Every single time, it's still hard. But I feel happy because I feel like it doesn't have power over me at all. You know, I can tell the story. I cry because I feel it, but not because I'm still angry or hurt anymore.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a way for you to heal as well.
Oh, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic.
Definitely. And what was the process like to actually put it together? Because the show is being presented at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater now. So what was the process like to putting it there? And what was the original plan with it? You were telling me that it was supposed to be a one weekend thing, and it's fine.
We did it originally. I just wanted, like I said, I just wanted to sort of do it as a turning 50 celebration. So originally we had planned just the weekend. We had gone to a couple of theaters, but when I went to Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, there was just something very intimate. I liked the space. It's a 186-seat theater. And I just felt like even if you're in the balcony in the last row, you can still see me well. So I like that. And I just, it just felt like home. It just felt like this is it. So originally it was just supposed to be a weekend. And when we first went, talked about it on social media that the tickets were on sale, they sold in less than 45 minutes.
Wow.
So then we added a Sunday, and that sold out by the end of the night. So then we're like, okay, so what are we going to do? So then we added July, and now we added August. And so far, so good. This is the longest. August will be the longest run. It will be 3 weeks.
Amazing.
And this is the test to see, is this show durable? Is it relatable? And can it have the potential to span out longer?
And speaking of relatable, how have people reacted to it?
Oh,
if they love it so much for it to keep selling out, you know,
it's
then
been
it says
incredible.
something.
And we've had people come back I've had a couple of people come 3 times. Had people come from Florida, from Chicago, from Maryland, Delaware, Massachusetts. And that's a testament to the fanship that I have, and also the story that's being told.
Definitely, definitely. And how can people watch the show? How can people actually see you perform your life story on stage? Well,
No Reason to Cry is playing at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. It's on 47th Street between 8th and 9th, and tickets are available at www.noreasontocry.com. And because I love my people in the Bronx, we are extending a discount for the viewers here, BN20. So you go to noreasonToCry.com and you enter the promo code BN20 and you get 20% off.
Well, you heard that. Good to know.
Because we all need a sale.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's amazing. Okay, I want to go back to that question I asked you before about if you could go back in time, and you mentioned that's featured in the show, spoiler alert. So what will give you like the most, because I know that in writing, sometimes you encounter all these emotions and you go back and you see how much you've grown. So do you feel like working this show, preparing the show and performing the show, you know, day after day that you do so, has made you a different person?
Absolutely. I feel like it made me grow because this was the scariest thing I've ever done. It's always scary to perform, but also to perform, to tell your story. And then it's something that I wrote, you know. So it was terrifying. I remember preview night, I remember almost crying. I remember saying, oh my God, what am I doing? What the hell am I doing? What did I do this for? What am I doing? And then you step out on stage and then you do it. And, you know, the lesson is the thing you fear the most, that's what you have to do. Because that's where your power is. That's where your growth is. I definitely feel more powerful. I definitely hold my head up a lot higher. And I've learned also that you can't do a one-person show by yourself.
Yeah.
It's taken so many people. My director, Emmanuel Hernandez, he's been amazing. My executive producers, Jay Emanuel, David Miskin, Raquel Bruno, my booking agent, Sala Patello. Everyone has stood by me, and they've all said, you want to do it, go. You know, and doing a show like this is a really expensive production. Probably way out of budget for me. So to have people believe me and believe in the story and back it up has been really amazing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on set today. I'm sure that everybody can relate that in order to, you know, move on with the things from your past, you got to confront your fears. That's something I definitely learned from our conversation today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Amazing. All right. And thank you, our guests, for joining us and watching the show today. And don't forget to check us out on the web at bronxnet.tv, BronxNet Community Television on Facebook, and on Instagram and Twitter at BronxNetTV. Until next time.
From the north to the south to the west to the east, we are expanding our services and upgrading technology at Lehman College. And now, Bronxites have an innovative media production facility in the East Bronx at Mercy College in the Hutch Metro Center. The windows on the East Bronx studio, a state-of-the-art control room, media labs for production and training, and other media-capable spaces. Training, workforce development, leading-edge technology, and programs that help you share your ideas, your voice, on your channels, locally and globally. Build media and technology skills at BronxNet and build your dreams.
Well, I got this as a paid internship. Spending my time here, I really enjoyed the people that work here. I enjoy what goes on behind the scenes.
So far, I've learned how to operate a camera, how to host. I learned how to control audio.
My first time hosting was really nerve-wracking, but I really enjoyed it because it was a new experience.